So we'll start up in a few minutes. So do we have some guests here today? I think we're supposed to have some people from some of the other users groups that I'd mentioned this to. We're gonna be stopping in today.
I'm from the Ollie SIG, Apple SIG. This is my second meeting though. I loved the first one, so I came back. I really
we like hearing that.
Yeah, it was
yes.
It was great. I loved it.
Well, welcome again.
Thank you.
I had lots of neat stuff to talk about today.
I'm hearing reviews on the button down comedy, and I've got to visit. I hate to say I haven't yet, but I've heard some excellent things about it, and especially your role as host.
Well, thank you. We have another one coming up this Friday.
Good.
Actually, you can also check our YouTube channel. We have the previous shows are up there. There's some great comedians. This last one we had two British comedians.
All right.
But technically one was Scottish.
He would be offended by your.
No, he left Scotland to go to England. So
is that right?
Yeah. He said he left as soon as he was able. Did a couple more minutes. Jan said that she was going to be having to leave early. She's got company coming. And I told her, I said, but it's Apple products. They can come and watch.
That's right.
Besides, even if they're not Apple users, you know very well that anything that Apple releases now will come in a more subdued form from one of the Windows users down the road.
Oh yeah.
Android.
I think the little the tile, what is it, Apple
the AirTags.
Yeah. I think the infrastructure that's going to build up around that is going to make a bunch of money for some folks. I mean, think about the cost of entry of that. It's minimal as long as you get the specifications right for whatever gizmo you use to attach it, and make a gazillion of them. You'll sell a gazillion of them. I think it's remarkable how Apple has created infrastructure around every one of their product announcements recently. All the mobile products have just really spawned a lot of industry.
Yeah, we're going to talk about there's a lot of things on the AirTags that are very interesting and impressive. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I was reading in one of the Washington Post this week, that if you're a stalker, those things are your friend. You can drop one in somebody's knapsack, and it's 3 days before it notifies. Yeah, it's 3 days before it notifies you that there is a tracker that is not yours that is following you. It's really kind of interesting. I mean, I those conspiracy theories I don't buy, but there's something going on there. Interesting.
Well, I read about a benchmark somebody did that they put a tile and an AirTag on the same device, and the tile identified itself within 20 minutes or something, and the tile took 14 hours to locate itself. So
wow. Yeah, I understand they're really good. That if you've got one of the AirTags from Apple, I mean, it pinpoints you within just a few feet. I mean, I understand it's really good.
All right, well, I'm going to get things started. So, welcome everybody to our April TMUG meeting. The weather's finally settled down, it seems. What's that?
Is that April or May?
I said April. What's supposed to be May? Well, I thought I changed that. Okay.
Marguerite.
Hang on, guys.
Way to go, girl. What would we do without Marguerite and her precision? Wow.
May.
There you go.
There we go.
No, no, no.
Maui,
no.
not Maui.
No.
Maui. Actually, Maui
Maui.
might not be bad. I think Maui would be good. All right, let's try this again. Welcome to our May.
Oh, great.
Wow, that month flew by.
I know.
Mhm.
Seems like it was just April. So, welcome to our May TMUG group. It's nice that the weather is calmed down a little bit, and we're getting actually steady sun instead of that, occasional snow. So today we're dealing with a few things. We got lots of new stuff that we're going to be talking about. Begin with, we're going to introduce our steering committee. First of all, Marguerite, did you have an announcement that you wanted to give to the group?
I do not.
Okay. I just wanted to let everybody know that we are still going to continue with our Zoom meetings for the foreseeable future. Once everybody is comfortable, we may move back to a in-person meeting, but we are planning to keep the Zoom portion of it for those people who are not local or who aren't in town. So we'll have kind of a hybrid meeting at that point, but that is still undetermined as when that will happen. Okay. Want to introduce our steering committee. We've got Terry Morrows, who is very integral to our system. He basically keeps our Facebook and our website up to snuff, puts up the meetings, meeting notes, the presentations. He uploads those for us. When we have our in-person meetings, he's also helpful, very helpful in getting our AV stuff up and running. So I want to make sure that we thank him for his time and effort and how much we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Oh, and we got the chat running right now too, which I'm active in. So
Yes.
behind the
he's our
scenes, how the sausage is made, kind of thing.
Yes. He's our chat moderator, so watch what you say.
That's right.
Also, Marguerite Peterson, also very integral. She is our treasurer and Jane of all trades. She's always finds stuff that she can do for us, even though she says she doesn't want to do anything. She's just too helpful for her own good.
Mhm.
But I also want to let her know that we appreciate all of her time and effort.
And she knows what month it is, so it's
And
very.
she
very
does. And she has a calendar.
good.
Amazing. And our previous president, David Day, is deigned to visit us from the beach. Are you at the beach now?
I am. Listen, we'll be leaving tomorrow and be out for the summer. We'll be back here in the fall.
Well, that's good to see. How's the weather there?
Oh, you don't want to know. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's been in the 70s, and we did have some rain finally, but the weather's fabulous here right now.
No, we didn't.
And we also have Matt Canizio. Matt, you gonna say hi to
No,
us?
still there.
No, I'm still here. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
That's Matt, we got your piano, is all we got.
I know that's actually me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I've been
all right.
practicing so much. The piano grabbed my soul. You've probably seen that in the movies. So that's it. It's kind of a little hard to get around, but gee.
What do you mean you're on wheels?
It's got big wheels. It's got enormous canisters. I can move it with 2 fingers, I think. No, I just I don't look presentable. Let me just put it that way.
Well, we'll have to make do with just hearing your voice. Then we have Bob Wilkerson. Bob, you want to say hi?
Hello to all my TMUG friends on this beautiful May day.
So, and then some of our other steering committee members who aren't here, Ed Wilkerson or Ed Sheeran, Jeanne Sparks, who I thought was supposed to be here, but her friends may have come early. Who am I missing? Is that everybody? That's
It's everybody. I don't.
And then, of course, is myself. I'm George Wagner. So, but we are basically, our job is to keep the group going to find topics and things that you guys want to hear. So if there's anything that you are interested in, that you want to see a presentation on, please let one of us know. If you have, complaints, please let us know. If you have compliments, definitely let us know. If you have something that you might want to actually present, please feel free to let us know. We will make that happen. I have no problem doing the presentations, but I also have no problem sitting back and watching. So, all right, let's move on to our next. Apple has some beautiful products and services that they announced a few weeks back. As always, Apple has iPhones, and while they didn't release any new models, they did release a new color. The iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 mini, they have a beautiful purple finish now. And as you can see, it is stunning. And purple is a very popular color. And actually, it was not intentional. I actually have a purple shirt on today. So, yes. So it's, and they're also doing a very big ad campaign for it. If you haven't seen it, to the Song of the Candyman, it's actually a very, very impressive looking ad. So, they brought out a new Apple TV. Doesn't look much different on the Apple TV itself, but the remote is phenomenally different. Okay. But in the iPad, they've added Wi-Fi 6 protocol. So basically they'll support the fastest Wi-Fi options available. Thread radio. Now, thread radio means absolutely nothing to 99% of the people out there. But David, I'm sure you have some familiarity with this. What this is, it's for home automation, and home automation is becoming more and more commonplace and more and more popular. You have a lot of devices that have basically internet connections that are talking to each other, so that you can say, okay, turn the lights on, turn the lights off, increase the temperature, decrease the temperature. And all these devices are talking currently over your Wi-Fi, which is going to basically bog it down. Thread radio is another way for these devices to talk to each other. And the neat thing about it is the more devices you have, the better it does, because it basically uses each device to basically kind of hand off the commands to other devices on the network. So it creates like a little spider web within your location. And this has the thread radio, but also that takes some of the burden off your Wi-Fi. And since we're going to be doing more and more streaming and such over Wi-Fi, we want to basically make that as efficient as possible. So this is a big thing for home automation, but it also will benefit people who are less inclined to have the home automation stuff. But it just does offer some very nice possibilities. It makes the Apple TV a hub for home automation. Prior to this, it was only the HomePod and HomePod Mini that could be used as hubs from Apple products. Okay. High frame rate HDR, which doesn't mean too much to us watching movies, but since the Apple TV is becoming more and more game friendly, not only with Apple's streaming service, but or subscription service, but also just with some of the console level games that people are making for it. The high frame rate is crucial for those games to run as well as impressively as possible. So that's going to be nice. It will also help with the video as well. This also supports the 4K resolution for TVs. So you've got some very impressive graphics coming out of that. But this is really the neatest thing, the new Siri remote. They listened to people's complaints about the previous remote. Right off the bat, you can pick up this remote and know without too much thought which end is up. Now the remote, I can't tell you how many times I've picked it up and wondered why the trackpad wasn't working because I had it upside down.
Yep.
So the circle at the top is not only the touchpad, it is also a click pad, so you can click directions, and it is a jog wheel. So if you want to scroll through a movie, you can basically, move your finger around the circular outside of that and scroll forward or backward through your video. And so it adds a lot of more control, more fine control, and more exact control. The neat thing about this also is that you can purchase the Siri remote by itself to use with the previous Apple TV. I find that excellent thing as well. All right.
George, if I can interject, before we leave that, you just mentioned the previous Apple TVs. They will also act as a HomePod base, or not a HomePod, but as a HomeKit base station. I just, in case anybody, we're talking about the new one, and the Thread radio is an incredible improvement. But I want to point out that the old Apple TVs will also act as a HomePod controller, or HomeKit controller. I'm sorry, a hub, yes, as well as an iPad. So just FYI, if you have an older Apple TV, it would be wonderful to upgrade to this, but it's not absolutely necessary if you want to stick your toe in the water. Thank you, George.
Not a problem. iMac. Apple released the M1 iMac. So this is basically going to be a speedy machine. As Ken was telling us before the meeting on his Mini, very fast. Compatibility is extremely high. It's a game changer, basically. I mean, the M1 is an impressive design, and keep in mind, while it is the first generation for the Mac, this is the same technology and architecture that's been in the iPhones and iPads in their A series chips, which they're currently at the A14. So they have a lot of history that they're bringing into this. They've been basically using this and refining this in the iPhone and iPad for a very long time. So while this is the first generation on the iMac and the Mac in general, it is a wealth of tried and true technology. The really impressive thing about this is, while the speed of the M1 is such that it will just scream on those apps that are designed to take full advantage of it, running emulated apps, anything written for the Intel chip, will run under emulation. Those emulated apps will run faster on the M1 than on the newest Intel Mac available. That is very impressive. That's something that you don't normally see when you run emulated software. The amount of programs that are going to be taking full advantage of the M1 already is pretty impressive, and that's going to improve very, very quickly. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit when you'll see. We'll talk more about that. Okay, the new Mac has the M1 processor. The performance is spectacular. The model they're releasing is a 24-inch display. Now, the previous low-end model had the 21-inch display. This display is almost the same physical dimensions as the 21-inch, just slightly larger physically, but the screen is much bigger. It's a much smaller bezel. Was much closer to the edge. So they're able to fit a 24-inch screen in a very compact space. Okay. Comes in 7 colors, as you can see, in beautiful colors. The mouse and the keyboard also come in matching colors. Getting a little bit back to their earlier days with the old gumdrop design, where they had everything color coordinated. And of course, there'll be people who want to mix and match. Always were. But this chip is based on the same chip that's in the iPhones and iPads, which means that the iMac is able to run iPad software, iOS software. Not everything will run out of the box, but you'll see more and more coming out that way. So you'll have a lot of software that wasn't currently available for the Mac, only for the mobile devices will be able to run on this. Okay. The response in the tech community has been phenomenal on the M1 Mini and the M1 MacBooks. The speed, everybody's been very impressed. In fact, the one thing that was probably the only complaint people had about them was that they looked just like the previous one. So you really didn't see any difference when you looked at them. That is not the case here. We have a new design, beautiful colors. You will know right off the bat which of these machines are the M1s. Okay. Now, in my head, a 27-inch model is probably not going to happen because going from 24 to 27 doesn't make sense. But considering they put a 24-inch in about the same space as the 21-inch, I'm guessing we're going to see something like a 30-inch, probably in the same amount of space as the 27-inch. Additionally, hitting that 30 mark is just, when you hear it, it sounds so much bigger than 27. Yeah, so from a marketing standpoint, that's going to be a big thing. But I think you'll see that. Really neat thing about these is they use a new connector. It's very similar to the MagSafe connectors on the MacBooks. It's a round connector, but it's a magnet connection in the back. Has a fairly thick cable coming off the back there that goes to the little brick type power supply that will sit on the floor. In that brick will also be the Ethernet connection. So you won't have any Ethernet cables going to the back of the computer. It'll be out of the way on the floor. Very neat design. Keeps it a much clean line to the computer. Okay. The keyboard, which is, as I mentioned, are color matched, also have the built-in Touch ID on the wireless keyboard. So that gives you the ability to unlock, to enter passwords with your fingerprints. I think these are going to be extraordinarily popular. I want one right now. So anybody have any questions on the iMacs?
I do, George.
George.
Hang on. Let's go, Marguerite. Why don't you go ahead?
I was going to ask, do you see a touch screen on the Big Mac at any time?
Personally, I don't. I do not understand the desire to have a touch screen on a desktop computer, because I'm sitting with my hands on the keyboard, reaching up to touch the screen is counterproductive. What I do see, and we've already seen a little bit of it on the MacBook Pros, is basically eliminating the keyboard and replacing it with basically an iPad type device or area. And that area then can be automatically a keyboard, a drawing tablet, a touch pad, whatever it needs to be. Similar to how that magic, what do they call it, the strip along the top, changes depending on where you are. I think that's the first step in doing it, in eliminating the keyboard, taking an iPad basically and making it your keyboard for your big monitor that you're not going to want to reach up and touch. So everything will be within reach. And I think that's, to me, makes a lot more sense. The only time a touch screen on this type of device is really useful is in a kiosk environment. And 95% of the people are never going to need it in that environment. So I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see that as being a priority. And from everything I've seen from Apple, they don't see it as a priority. They want the touch devices to be within your area of where your hands are going to be. So near the keyboard.
George, I have a Windows machine that I bought exclusively for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had Windows machines with touch screens for a long time.
Mhm.
10 years, whatever it is. I never use it. I mean, I even
Exactly.
forget it. I mean, I have my hands on the mouse and that's it. So,
Plus the fact that, do you really want to have fingerprints all over
Yeah.
your monitor? Yeah. But yeah, I'm the same way. I've worked on ones that have it, and even though I know it has a touch screen, it's like the mouse is quicker.
mhm.
You know? And that's the thing, is that when you're doing your work, you don't want to have to interrupt typing to reach up to move the cursor, you know, or to select something. You do it with the mouse or keyboard shortcuts. But having, if on the other hand, my keyboard also had the ability for me to touch right above it and do things, that would make a lot more sense. And that's, I think, where we're going. I don't know if you guys were Star Trek viewers or not. If you remember Star Trek, if you had the security guy walk up to the computer, his controls were there. If you had the communications person walk up, their controls were there. Navigation, their controls were there. So basically, it dynamically changed for whatever the need was, and you could customize your control. So that basically made it much more, you know, you could basically work from anywhere, and you had all your work controls the way you wanted it. And so the screens were dynamic depending on what they needed. And I think that's where we're headed. Where basically your keyboard, I mean, if you sit down and you start working in Photoshop, you don't want a keyboard, you want your tools and your drawing area. You go into a music program, you're going to want your music controls. You go into a game, you're going to want your gaming control. So rather than having a keyboard, a drawing tablet, a gaming controller, you can basically have that all in one device that it dynamically changes to be what it needs to be when it needs to be. I think that's where we're headed. How soon we'll get there, I don't know. The magic bar on the MacBook Pro, some people love it, some people hate it. I think it is the first step in replacing a physical keyboard with a more dynamic interface.
George, if you look back at the history of Apple's design and engineering, they've always been concerned with ergonomics. They're not a company that will launch products and configure products based on they put it in just because the technology is cool. They have always, like you're saying, has always thought these things through. And we as consumers, at least in my experience, I have learned from that process, and I have gotten very comfortable in the Apple ecosphere as a result.
One thing to keep in mind, we've heard a lot about how smooth the transition was to the M1. That was not accidental. Apple knew they were coming here a long time ago and basically have been moving us and the developers along this path so that this transition was not anything substantial. The developers were pushed to make their stuff 64-bit compatible for Big Sur, which was needed for the new processor. So all these things that Apple's been doing just gradually is part of a plan, and they look long term. They don't come out with an operating system that has a totally new interface that nobody understands. They get us there gradually. If you look at Big Sur and you compare it to the original Mac operating system of 1984, the really impressive thing is there's a lot of similarities. Yep. They've moved us to some really sophisticated areas, but they've done that while keeping us in something we're comfortable with and familiar with and works for us. Apple's one of the few companies that rarely does change just for the sake of change. And that's always impressed me. That being said, they do sometimes do that, and I will call them out on it when they do.
George, my question is, I've got a 27-inch Mac, iMac that I love. You'd said that they probably wouldn't put an M1 chip in the 27, but maybe go to a 30. Do you have any idea when that may happen?
They have said that the whole transition was going to take 2 years. We're about a year in from that date. So my guess is the next thing we'll probably see is probably going to be the larger MacBook Air, MacBook Pros, like the 16-inch. Then we're probably going to see the larger iMacs after that. So I'd say probably maybe by Christmas. So that'd be a good time to have it out. I think the last thing we'll see transition will be the Mac Pro, the tower.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I'll tell you though, when that Mac Pro tower comes, it's gonna be phenomenal. I mean, if these things, these are 8-core first generation chips that are just knocking our socks off. They're going to put in 12 core. They're going to put in multiple 12 core. They're going to, these suckers are going to just scream when they get to the high end Mac Pro. No, but I think the next ones will be they'll fill out the rest of the MacBook line. Then they'll probably fill out the rest of the iMac, and then they'll probably go to the Pro after that. So I'm thinking by the end of this year, we will have the MacBooks, definitely, hopefully the larger iMac as well. Okay. Next, the iPad Pro. Now, the iPad Pro, you need to pay attention to this one. iPad Pro did some really interesting things. They've increased the performance of the iPad Pro because they included the M1 processor. Now think about this for a moment. The iPad and the iPhone have been using the A series processors. The M1, which was based on the technology and architecture of the A1, the A series, was used on the Mac. Now they're bringing that to the iPad Pro. So they now are basically bringing the hardware for the mobile and the desktop converging to use the same processor. We already know that the iMac will be able to run the iPad software. Think about this: the M1 iPad Pro, in theory, should be able to run Mac software, Mac operating system. And since the operating systems have also been converging, eventually there'll be a unified operating system. We're not that far away from that. This basically is the first step in the hardware part of it. So I would say that we will probably hear of, I'm sure we're going to hear some people doing it before Apple announces it, but I think we're going to see at some point where the iPad could run the Mac operating system. But more importantly, from a developer standpoint, this brings the development to a single platform. You can write a Mac or iPad program, pretty much the same program, with very minor differences. So you're going to see a lot of the iPad and iPhone software that Mac users saying, well, they've moved, everyone moves to mobile, they're not writing that stuff for the Mac anymore. Now this basically makes it very easy for them to add the Mac to that equation. And then the iPad users have always been saying, hey, what about those high-end, Photoshop and photo editing and movie editing software? I'd like to have that on the iPad. It makes it much easier to make that transition as well. So what we're going to see is an increase in availability of software, no matter which Apple product you have. So you're not going to have to say, okay, if I want an iPad, I'm going to have to give up being able to do this, this, or this. Or if I want an iMac, I'm not going to be able to do that, that, or that. Now you're going to be able to basically choose whichever device fits the needs you have. Also means that if you have both devices, it makes it very easy to go back and forth between the devices working on the same project. Really opens up the door to a lot of possibilities. Okay. So the two iPad Pros they released were the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch. Okay. They've added a 5G option for those who are on the go. They've added Thunderbolt, which is something that the iPads did not have.
Yeah.
They have smart HDR3 on the display. And that comes on the camera. They have enhanced low light photos and videos. on the 12.9 inch, only on the 12.9 inch, they are using the mini LEDs, and they have created, if you're not familiar with their Apple's new monitor, the XDR, phenomenal monitor. The color is just impressive as all get out. It's not cheap, but anybody who does the kind of work that needs it loves it. They have taken that and basically recreated that on the iPad 12.9 inch with a liquid retina XDR. It has more sensors than the actual desktop monitor has. It has the ability to control the screen colors, the brightness. It is just, anybody who's into video work or photography is just going to be impressed with this. It is such an impressive thing that it's probably going to make the 12.9 inch outsell the 11 inch dramatically. The 11 inch has a phenomenal screen, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to compare. In addition, the Thunderbolt ports also are USB 4 compatible. It uses the USB-C connector. So basically, you now have high-speed transfer or high-resolution displays. You'll now be able to plug the iPad Pro directly into an external display. Again,
And George, I heard a rumor that the new one that you're talking about, can run 2 6K monitors at the same time with the new chip that they have, and it's going because you're going up to the M1 chip. You're going from 6 gigs of RAM to up to 16 gigs of RAM. So it's going to fly.
Yeah, they basically are making this iPad into a potential desktop replacement and a high-end desktop replacement, not just a quick and dirty. It's an impressive machine. The front camera is a 12 megapixel ultra wide. They have a feature called center stage. If you've, especially with things like Zoom, it will basically track you and follow you so that you're always centered to the camera. Right? If somebody else comes into frame, it detects that and it zooms out to see both of you. Okay. The 11 and 12 inch displays both have the ProMotion, True Tone, wide color support, so you've got just a very good viewing area. It's just impressive, both of them. The 12.9 inch adds the XDR functions, which basically gives you, I mean, it has over 10,000 of the mini LED in the screen. It's just impressive machine. But the big thing they don't really talk about is the potential here with the M1 processor is that you are now going to see a lot more, basically of the iOS and Mac software on both devices, the iPads and the Macs. So it's going to be impressive to see. I really think that we're going to see somebody putting Mac OS on an iPad Pro before Apple announces it.
George, I have heard that Adobe has announced, or I've read that Adobe has announced moving Photoshop, full Photoshop, to the new iPad Pro.
I've heard that as well. Yeah, and that's just it. Apple's been working to make that easy for developers to make that jump from Mac to iOS and from iOS to Mac. And I think within a few years, we're going to see probably a single operating system across Apple's devices. It's kind of there now. The underpinnings of Mac OS and iOS are the same. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But any questions on the iPad Pros? Where's my picture? There it is.
I want to interject something here that people might want to consider. I have enjoyed using the Apple Pencil on my iPad. Getting back to doing some cursive writing. When I sit down to work in my diary, I would rather sit down with a pencil in my hand and go through and make it and write like I used to do, or draw diagrams and pictures. And the iPad Pro, or in iOS now, they've got a feature called Scribble. It is remarkable how accurately it can read my hand scratching and turn it into text. And I can do that in any text field. So if you're a person who enjoys holding a pencil in your hand for drawing or artwork, give it a try. And I think it impressed the heck out of me. And for that reason, I'm not going to get a 12.9 because I really enjoy holding the 11-inch in my hand. The feel of the pen against the screen is not really good. So I've got these paper-like screen protectors on there. I'm going to try some new pen tips next week. But it's just a remarkable device, a new data entry device that I think I have certainly enjoyed, and I'd encourage others to give it a try. To me, it's made the iPad so much more of a pleasant device to use.
You have to keep in mind, Apple has had a lot of experience with that type of technology. I was one of the old Newton users back in the day.
Yep.
And what a lot of people don't realize is actually cursive is in some ways easier for the computer than printed text, than hand printing, because it knows the beginning of each word and the end of each word. It knows because the pen is one single flow until it stops. If you print, it can very easily get confused because of the spacing of what letter goes with which word.
Is that an app, David? Scribble?
No, it's a feature, Bob. It's just there. You can choose to type any field, a PDF document, for example, from a third party. We've been doing all these real estate contract things, and they send these editable PDFs to us. And instead of having to use a keyboard to fill out, type my name and sign my name, or put in an address or whatever, whenever there's an editable field, you have the option of using pencil, and it will convert that to text for you. It's great. I mean, it's just so natural feeling.
And so it's a function of the pencil, of the Apple Pencil.
That's right. In other words, the operating system detects the pencil using the pencil on the screen, and it automatically goes to Scribble and uses Scribble. There's apps that do it independently. One that I used in the past called I forget the name of it now. I haven't used it in so long. But all of a sudden, one day I was using one on the beta. I was using it 4.14.5. I started using the pencil, and all of a sudden it started converting everything to text. I'm saying the speed and accuracy of it is just phenomenal.
Right.
And will only get better with the M1.
Now I've ordered me a new Apple Pro. I got the big one, the 12-inch one, because I've bet on the come that this thing is going to be in a short time is going to run the Mac OS. If they do that, how long will that take us or how long will it take them to do that, do you think? Get the Mac OS on there?
That's a good question. It's basically more of a question of how quickly Apple will make it available publicly, because I would lay odds they already have it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, they're just basically going to wait until it makes sense for them to do that. Probably not till these have been out for a while, not till they can test the apps, make sure everything's working right. Apple has never been quick to rush things. They learned a long time ago with the Newton that if you bring something out too soon, it can cause no end of problems. It actually killed the Newton, because no matter how good the Newton was after that initial release, nobody ever gave it a second chance.
But this model, or this latest edition of the iPad Pro, it looks like it's what I've been waiting for all the years since the iPad's come out, or it has the potential to be once they can do the Mac OS. And with that chip, that's why I decided to buy one in there. You know?
Well, keep in mind, whether they actually bring the Mac OS to the iPad Pro or not, the apps that are currently being made for the Mac that have been updated for the M1 processor on the Mac can be brought to the iPad very easily.
That's a good point. And I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if they don't actually bring the operating system, the functionality, the programs themselves will come over. I mean, I'm sure Adobe has been chomping at the bit for this, because this means they don't have to spend all that time to, recreate the wheel. They just put a few modifications in there and go. And as far as iPad apps running on the Mac, it is basically the developer's decision to say yes or no to a single option to make that available to run on an M1 Mac. Now, if they programmed the app through Apple's Catalyst system, then it should come over to the Mac and run pretty darn well. If they didn't, then it's going to be a little clunky. It'll still run, but it's not going to take advantage of some of the Mac things. Like, for example, full screen probably won't work because it's going to be limited to the window that would represent the size of the iOS screen. So, but right now it's been a hit or miss. It depends on how well the developer did. So that'll be the big thing. So, and that's also what Apple wants to do. They don't want to open the door to that too soon and have the apps that come across be clunky and unusable, and people just say forget it. Because then you have another repeat of what happened with the Newton, what happened with Maps too. Maps to this day is poo-pooed because it isn't very good. Well, it is excellent now. Yes, the first version had some problems. That was years ago, and so they don't want that to happen. So they're gonna, and they're in a position now, that they don't have to release something just because they can.
Right.
They can sit back and say, okay, well, it's not the best time to release this. They'll wait. So, but yeah, the out of the door features of these are phenomenal and are a great investment for anybody who wants one. The potential is just mind-boggling, and that's one of the things that's really neat in Apple in general, but especially with these models, is that Apple looks at things 5, 6, 7, 8 years out, maybe even longer. So, this is the fruition of that. So what do they have planned for us in the next 5 years? If you all remember when the AirPods first came out, and the AirPods had the feature where if you take the right one out, everything gets pushed to the left one. Okay. That functionality, that was using a special chip that Apple included. Well, that ability was supported all the way back to the iPhone 5S, even though when they released it, I believe the iPhone 8 was out. So that means that they knew and had planned for this functionality 5 years prior, and had put the building blocks into those phones 5 years ago that were not going to be used until they released this product 5 years later. So I love their plan structure and the way they do it. They basically, I would love to see what they have in mind for us in 5 years. I'd hate to, the problem is I'd hate to work in those departments, because then you'd go out and have to buy a new phone. You're going, I'm gonna have to use this phone, but what about the one we're working on?
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the iPad? Okay, move on. AirTags. AirTags are pretty impressive. And for, as far back as I can remember now, it's been probably 10 years. If you lost your iPhone, you had an option to track it. You had the Find My Phone function. Okay. And they had, passed that along to the iPad, of course. They've extended that to the Mac, to the Apple Watch. And it's great. Pretty much any Apple product that you have, you can find if it's lost or stolen. Well, with AirTags, you can basically extend that. They're easy to set up. Basically, you bring close to your phone. The phone detects and says, hey, do you want to set this up? You say yes. The range of these is pretty much, infinite, because it's using a secure feature of Bluetooth to pass along information through the network of all these Apple devices that Apple has. Your device, basically really doesn't have to know anything about what it found. It just notes, oh, hey, I found something, and it passes it along. So that basically, if you've lost a device, somebody within range of it, it will basically ping it and pass that information along, and eventually it'll get to you and say, hey, here's where your device is. Okay. It basically is basically the small, about 1.26 inches wide, so about an inch and a quarter wide, circular, and about 0.31 inches thick. Okay. They have a replaceable battery. Let's see, bring up all the information here. They're inexpensive, $29. There's the dimensions, 1.26 by 0.31. It's the standard watch type battery. It's a CR2032. It's a very common battery. They say it'll last probably about a year. Okay. It has a IP67 rating, which is water resistant up to 30 minutes. So if you drop it in the bathtub, it's not going to hurt it. They do say if you lose your wallet in the river, you better move quickly because you only have 30 minutes. Okay. It is very similar to the Tile device in what it does, but because of Apple's network of devices, it has a much better detection. Because it includes the ultra wideband, once you get close, within about 30 feet, I think it is, it uses the ultra wideband to give you precise directional notification. So you'll stand there and you'll say, okay, it has an arrow, big arrow on the screen that points, over to the right, and you turn and you walk until it tells you exactly where it is. So basically, excuse me. So basically, it's going to take you right up to it. It's not going to get you in the vicinity. It's going to get you right to it. There's talk about having some augmented reality stuff to it, but they haven't done that at this point. But what's really cool is that this whole Find My network that they have has been opened up to third parties. So the AirTags let you put these on any device that you want, but some of the companies are incorporating that technology in their devices. One of the bicycle manufacturers, high-end bike, has this built into their device. It's in their software. They don't have to add any hardware. They just basically add the software protocols into their technology that's on the bike. And so basically you can track your bike if it gets lost or stolen. Headphone manufacturers, some of the high-end headphones, are putting it in case you lose your headphones. Yeah. So it really is becoming more than just find my Apple stuff. It's going to be find my stuff. And by opening, Dave, you were talking about this a little bit earlier. You want to talk about what you were mentioning with this?
I look at the industry that's going to build up around this. George is mentioning third-party manufacturers integrating it into the hardware, but there are people that are going to come up with gadgets to attach these to all kinds of products. You know, I think Ken earlier mentioned having them, you know, in your backpack. Hermes, that leather company, that ridiculously priced leather company, has got little tags that are $1,200 that you put this thing in. So I just am amazed. We don't, you know, I'm looking at a few things that you can see that are starting to come out into the market. I was just making a comment in general how here Apple announces a product, $29. I suspect their cost of goods in this is less than $5. So, and of course they've got to, you know, package, distribute, and manage it. But think of the people that are the industries that are going to spring up around this because of the scale of Apple's impact on any market. They just created a new market. Tile tried to do it, but Tile was a small company. Apple has come into this market, and instantly there's a customer base of basically billions of people, certainly millions of people, that may want to spend $29, and then they're going to spend another 3 or 4 to come up with a little gizmo to attach it to their lunch pail or to attach it to their hiking boots or whatever. I'm just saying that this is a whole new way for Apple to create third-party companies, small startup companies. Some people will come up with ideas on how or where to attach this, and they'll advertise it and sell a gazillion of them.
Well, if you know anybody who's into running, a lot of them have those little things you clip onto your shoe so that they can get your time. I think there's a market where this might replace those for that function as well. I mean, there's a lot of potential.
Well, you know, and who was it? One of the companies has got a pair of glasses with a built-in radio and speaker, so that you can listen to music without having to have earphones in. It comes through your through the frames of the glasses. This will be an obvious thing to integrate into glasses. There's currently, you can buy one of those things that you attach on the ends of the earpieces, you know, that looks like it's how when you hang your glasses over your neck, you got this loop that hangs back in the back, and they've got a thing that's designed specifically to hold the air tag. So there's going to be dozens and dozens of applications, is my point.
And keep in mind, in your example with the glasses, they don't even have to do that. The glasses manufacturer can add the protocols to their software that's already there, so that it's part of that network.
Yep, I agree. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. So then there was some talk, the whole issue of stalking. You know, someone tosses that in someone's bag so they can track them. And Apple does need to up their the sensor. They basically have a notification if there's a device within range that's not yours. They'll need to work on that, and they'll fine tune that, I'm sure. But one of the neat things is that if you come across a device that has an AirTag, it can basically identify whose device that is that you found, which
right,
helps
right.
too. So it'll help you track down the owner. So, but yeah, it's got some really they well implemented. Tile is fuming. I know that there's talk of a legal battle, but I don't think there's really a case for it, because Apple's using their own network of consumers. That's what really made this successful with Tile, is that Tile relied upon you know, a casual network of people. Here you've got, you know, hundreds of millions of Apple users out there with iPhones and watches. So it's, you know, right out of the box is a much bigger market. They have the ultra wide, which the Tile does not have, has replaceable batteries, which the Tile does not have. So it's, I mean, yeah, it's in the same market, but Tile was not the first company to even make this type of device. So they can't claim they created the market either.
Hey, George or David, how would you attach this to your phone?
You don't need to. Your phone has it built in. Find
Okay,
my function.
so So let's say I misplaced my phone. Walk me through how I find my phone.
From any device. If you're going to an Apple device, there's a Find My app. You go to the Find My app, you log into your Apple ID,
Right?
and you choose that missing device from the list of devices that is tied to your Apple ID. And you can basically find its location. You
So
can
I
also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I could do this from my iPad, just go to my
Yeah.
iPad, but I would
Yeah.
need, could I do it from my laptop, my Mac?
Yes. You can do this from
Pro?
any device. If you go to a device that's a computer, you go to iCloud.com. If you go to any computer, if you go to an Android device, just go into their browser, go to iCloud.com. Now I'm gonna be flexing a little bit on this one. There's a button on here that I feel that I'm responsible for. If you log into iCloud.com, put in your Apple ID, put in your password, it sends you a verification code. If you've lost your phone, how are you going to get that verification code? You're not. A friend of mine had that issue and wasn't able to do the tracking until they got home. And by that time, of course, it was long gone. I basically emailed Tim Cook about that experience. And about a week later, when you're on the screen with the verification code comes up, the very bottom of that screen is a Find My button. It's the only function you can do without verifying. So you can basically, once you've logged in, you can hit the Find My and track any of your devices.
Now you got to log in. Was it iPod.com?
iCloud.com.
Oh, iCloud. Okay, gotcha.
George, didn't the phones have the ability to go and put your personal information on the home screen without you actually getting into the phone? So if someone were to find your phone,
once you're logged in, once you're logged into the iCloud and you go to the Find My function, all your devices appear. You go to the device that's missing, you have options. If you put it in lost mode, and that's I think what you're referring to, it will then put information on the screen. You can provide a phone number for them to call if they find it. It also locks it if it isn't locked. It also can tell it to make a sound. So let's say you know where it is and you go there and you're looking for it, but you can't find it. Well, you can tell it to make a sound and it makes this pinging sound. It's also useful if somebody stole it, because if you call the police, they are familiar with the Find My phone function.
Right.
You tell them where it is, they go there. The person says, well, I don't have your phone. And then you say, okay, play the alert. Even if the phone is muted, it will make the noise.
Yeah.
The only way to turn that noise off is to log in. If it's not their phone, they can't log in, they can't turn it off.
And the AirTags are giving that type of intelligence. So if you were to lose your keys with an AirTag on it in the park, somebody you've never met could pick up those keys. Their Apple device would talk to your Apple device saying, this is the person that's found your keys. This is how to get in touch with them. And that's the intelligence that would get your stuff back.
Yeah. Yep. And the AirTags have the ultra wideband, which takes it a step further. The nice thing with the phone is you can make a sound, so you can find it when you get close to it, because you don't have the ultra wideband function. With the AirTags, since you can't make it make a sound, you can, however, get that ultra wideband can get you specifically right to where it is.
George, what kind of a range is it that you need to find something that has an AirTag on it? I'm thinking of putting it on a pet. And if you got a dog that runs away, how far away can you be and still find the animal?
Well, it's pretty much infinite. As long as that dog at some point is within the range of a Bluetooth device, which I think is 30 meters.
Yeah.
Right.
It pings that Bluetooth gets that, oh, we got this device, and passes it along to the network. And it does this through a secure Bluetooth feature. So basically, the person whose phone is within close enough range, no information is ever transferred other than it passes along this ping. to the network, and then it eventually finds its owner, you, and says, oh, it was right here. That's where it is. And so basically, there are so many iPhones and devices out there that the dog is going to walk within close range to something at some point, and you're going to be able to find it.
Right. It's not the range of your device. You're borrowing somebody else's Apple device to extend that range so that you now get the information bounced back to you on where your dog is, even though he's much farther than the range of what the device could do.
There was
It's
a
like a
guy,
spider web.
Yeah.
that's right. There was a guy in the Netherlands this week that put one of these in an envelope and mailed it to himself and tracked it around the postal network in the Netherlands and saw where it sat for 12 hours in some distribution center, because other people in the distribution center were using iPhones, and they reported it took them that long for one phone to pass by his device and for it to ping that device. So yeah, and it is infinite. If you think about again, the scale of Apple's network of devices and products, that's what makes this such a remarkable device. And maybe one of the reasons they held it up from it's been around. Apparently the technology's been ready for 2 years.
Yeah, Marguerite, I was the one who mentioned earlier about stalking, and a test that was done by the Washington Post tech writer. He was in Washington. He mailed one to his friend in San Francisco and watched that AirTag go all over San Francisco in his friend's backpack. So, 3,000 miles.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're in a decent sized city, there's no way the dog's going to be able to go far without hitting somebody's range.
Apple has actually made a statement to adults that it's not necessarily something you want to depend on with children if in fact you're not in a city, because if you put it on a child and you depend on that to locate them, you got to be sure you're not walking in the forest, because it may be a long time before somebody gets up, so there are some common sense ways that you have to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
But Apple has thought of that. They said that if you have
Exactly.
somebody else's chip on you and you have an Apple device, it's going to tell you that you have somebody else's chip near you. So it's not like you can throw something in somebody's bag and they're not going to notice it. The only way that they wouldn't notice it is if they had an Apple device that's so old that can't deal with this newer technology. I think you need at least iOS 14, or which goes back way to like version 6S, or you don't have an Apple device at all that would allow you to go and have this on you and not have you notice it. So it is they've thought ahead of time to go by and say, we're going to make it so that they can't just throw it on you and get away with that. They're watching where Tile never did. They had absolutely no security whatsoever. You could do this all day long and they wouldn't care. So Apple has thought of that ahead of time.
Apple's always been big on privacy, so they're going to try to think of these things. And if they don't, and it comes to their attention, they're going to do something about it. Additionally,
there is a way around that. Again, this article took the dark side of it, but it basically said if a wife is trying to track the husband and see if he is into what is the word, activities that he shouldn't be into, there's a 3-day waiting period before that AirTag actually says, by the way, there's somebody else's AirTag who's been following you around, that the wife can reset that AirTag every night so it never lets the husband know that in fact he's been tracked. I figure Apple's going to figure out a way around that at some point, but it's amazing what it will do.
Ken, that doesn't quite jive with the fact that if your phone comes in contact with an AirTag, it's going to say, hey, we found somebody's device. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is that if I come across somebody's device, it needs to let me know whose device it is. So there's going to be that much quicker than 3-day period. So
Yeah,
it
and
seems,
I couldn't figure out that 3-day thing either. That didn't sound right. That's what the writer of the article said, in real time. And I got to believe 3 days is about 2.5 days longer than it's really going to take. But I'm just quoting from their Washington Post article.
yeah,
I heard that too, and they said that it will not freak out for 3 days if you are going to the same places, because it's using your phone to track where you are. So that if you've set up this AirTag in your name and you're going to the same 5 places that you always go, it's not going to panic. But they did say that if someone puts this tracker on you and you are going else from what the standard is, that it will not take 3 days. It will be nearly instantaneous. And if someone's doing that to you, the AirTags is the least of your problems.
That's right.
Well, if you recall, when they first implemented the Find My Phone function, there were a slew of divorces after that, because they would basically track their significant other and say, hey, where are you? Oh, I'm at the office. Well, how come it says you're at this hotel? There were stories about that too. So yeah, you're gonna have some issues, and Apple will deal with them as best they can. They've always been, very sensitive to those things. All right. Any other questions on AirTags? Move to the next. Oh, and then they do have an option for personalized printing. So I could see where a lot of things, like they talked about the racing, where they could basically get a whole bunch of them, imprint the logo of the racing company, and put those, give those out. And then the thing that's really impressive to watch is basically on your phone, you just have this big arrow that points you the direction you need to go. Okay. So my crystal ball, I've actually given a lot of these things already I've mentioned. But I think that we're going to see a lot more convergence of Mac and iOS. I think we're going to see the apps become much more universal, so that basically you can buy an app for iOS and run on Mac and vice versa. The Apple TV, I love my Apple TV. I use it a lot. The home automation stuff I don't do much with, but one day I hope to have a house and do more with that. Not gonna spend the money on doing it at my rental property. But yeah, this I think the you're gonna see the M1 hit the rest of the Power or MacBook line, I think probably this summer, and hopefully by Christmas we'll see the larger iMac. One thing to keep in mind, for years we've always been pushing, more memory, more memory, more memory. The new design of Apple's chip basically does not need the big, memory that we're used to seeing. They had they're only offering at this point 8 and 16 on most of these devices, but the speed difference between the two was unnoticeable because of the way the chip is designed. It can transfer information between the storage and the memory, and in such rates that having more memory was not as big of a speed bump as you would expect it to be. That being said, storage, the base model on a lot of these is 256. I don't see 256 as being a viable option, even with cloud functionality and such. So I would definitely look to the larger capacities. whatever your budget can hold. My personal feeling is that hard drives are like closet space. There's no such thing as too much. But then again, I'm somebody who has a 5 terabyte main hard drive that's mostly full. So, but just make sure whatever you buy, that you do buy sufficient storage. That's the biggest mistake I see a lot of people make, is they buy something and it doesn't have enough storage, and then they're trying to make it all fit. And with these devices, it doesn't look like the storage is going to be upgradable, because it's part of the whole chip, the system on a chip includes it. So I don't think that's going to be upgradable. So whatever you're going to get, you need to get up front. All right. So now, any questions anybody has, not just on the new products and services, if you have any questions at all. In fact, we had one question from, let me bring it up here.
Z left a note in chat that she's
Yeah.
left. So
And it was her question we're going to deal with.
right.
So
So
I have a question. Can
Sure.
I ask?
Of course.
I just finally got around to upgrading to Big Sur this week. The reason I put it off was because I was afraid my printers wouldn't work, but luckily they both work. But I discovered that the Spotlight search does not work, and I read that that's a known problem. Do you have any idea when they might fix it?
Not familiar with what the particular problem is. If it's a
I mean, it doesn't
inherent
work.
and
It doesn't
well,
work.
but there's a variety of reasons why it might not work. It could just need the index being rebuilt.
That's what the article that I saw. Does that mean it'll eventually do it on its own?
Well, no, if it said it was an index issue, you can basically force it to rebuild the index.
Okay.
The easiest way of doing that is to go into set system preferences,
Mhm.
go into Spotlight, and let me get the things up here.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, go to Spotlight, and then if you go to Privacy, there's a plus and a minus at the bottom. Okay, if you hit the plus,
We're still seeing your keynote, George.
yeah. Well, I don't think I can share this. Let me see if I can share this one.
I'm sorry, I thought that you had it there.
Let me try to see if I can share this. First thing I need to do is clean up my screen. Okay. So you go to, let me back up here, go to System Preferences, Spotlight, Privacy, hit the plus, okay, go to your computer on the sidebar here, and if you add your main hard drive, okay, and hit choose, what that's going to do is that's going to eliminate your hard drive from Spotlight. You say, well, that's not what I want, but temporarily it is. You do that, then you close System Preferences, then you immediately go back into System Preferences, Spotlight, Privacy, select the hard drive that you had put in there, and hit the minus to remove it from this list, which will force it to then re-index it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And then once you take it off, then I don't have to go back and do anything else. I
No,
mean,
once
that's the
you've done,
second step.
yeah, the first step says basically, don't include this in any of my searches. So it's very useful if you've got certain things in your computer that are, private, you
Mhm.
put that in there. And so if somebody's on your computer and they do a search, those things will never show. Okay. But if you put the whole hard drive in there, it says, okay, we're going to take this out of the index. And then as soon as you do that, then you go back and take it out of the privacy and say, oh, we need to index all this stuff. Once you do that, it's going to take it a little while.
Right.
It's a lot to index. But once that index is done, if the index was the problem, then that should fix it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
George, one more point. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was looking at Apple's support, and they said that on some occasions that doesn't work. I put in a link to the discussion that you have to get into Terminal and type in 2 lines of code. If your suggestion, which they said is the first thing to try, doesn't work, it's in the chat, the discussion on how to put in those 2 lines of code in Terminal. And
There is another alternative. If you're familiar with Onyx, ONYX, it's an excellent utility for general cleanup. One of the features it has that by default is off is to delete the Spotlight index.
Right, but according to this article, they tried Clean My Mac, Onyx, and the Apple Toolbox,
Okay.
and all 3 of those did not work. So this is
Okay.
the last chance grenade, choice of getting it to work. You have to go into Terminal, but according to Apple support, this should be the last chance, and it should fix it.
Okay. If you're not familiar with Terminal, it's very old school. If you go in there, just make sure that you just type in exactly what they put in there. If you can copy and paste it, that it works even better. And then just get out of Terminal, because Terminal is basically old school command line. If you've ever worked with DOS, it's that type of interface. So
Very easy to screw something up.
Yes,
Yep.
I'll be careful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, George, I've got several things I want to say. First of all, let's acknowledge the visitors that we have today. I counted 4 earlier. I don't know if they're still all on. For one, I know that one of our own here at College Walk is with us. Hello, Denise.
Hey, Marguerite. Thank you.
I don't know if there are any other visitors at this moment. The other thing is, particularly for the visitors, you need to remember that there's a chat going on while this meeting is going on. And Terry continuously will post links and other information that would be helpful to some of the questions that come up. And the third thing is a problem that some of us are having after the upgrade to the latest update on Big Sur. The envelope that we discussed this at the last meeting, but somehow it didn't register with me. The envelope or the file that appears on the desktop after the Big Sur upgrade called relocated items. In the past, if you clicked on it, you could see what those relocated items were. Now it's a file and it can't be opened. I need to know, and some of my colleagues need to know, what do you do with that folder? What is in it? And in this case now, how do you open it?
That's
Are you there,
question.
George?
I'm here. Terry, are you familiar with that one at all?
I haven't had time to experiment with Big Sur much. I'm looking up in the support stuff on Apple, and I'll put a link of what I've been able to find, but no, I have not had time to experiment on that.
Okay.
Okay, also for the guests, again, whatever was discussed here and whatever links appeared here, you can find it on our website after Terry has had a chance to post it. So if you don't need to take notes during this, I watched people taking notes today. This information appears on our website after usually the same day of the meeting, as Terry puts it out there.
George, one more thing. Z did say that she was going to come back and watch the recording later.
Okay.
So if
Her
you did want
question-
to address her questions,
Her question actually is a good question. I think people will get a lot of information out of it. So unless somebody else has another question first,
Valerie has raised her hand.
Valerie, what's your question?
Hmm.
Are you muted, Valerie?
I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I don't know if I'm classified as a visitor or not, but it's nice to see you, George. We survived a year and a half or whatever. So this seems a lot more technical for me. I probably won't be a regular. At the library, I felt like we had more of an ability to just ask our little questions. This is above my capacity, I think. But if you don't have a problem with this quick question, or maybe I could contact you later. But I bought a desktop finally because my big passion and thing is photography. And I just have thousands and thousands of photographs. And I've got 3 laptops and 2 of them don't really work because they're so old. But all these photographs, I thought my plan was I get a new Mac desktop and slowly transfer them all over, organize them into albums, slideshows, whatever. And honest to God, now my iPhone and my laptop that I'm using presently, they're all out of storage because somehow this bloody cloud is doing things that I never wanted it to do. And it's transferring all the photos that I have no idea now where I'm at because it's just such a jumble of photographs. And I really didn't want that. I wanted this to be a pristine new system with tons, like you say, tons of hard drive. So I could put every photograph into one place finally. And now I feel like I'm just totally worse off than when I started.
Well, keep in mind, depending on what options were chosen for the cloud can act as with what's called photo stream, can act as just a gateway. Or with photo library, it can act as a synchronization. And it sounds like you got the synchronization turned on. So when you added all those pictures to the desktop, those pictures then also got added to the other devices. And so there are ways that you can configure it to not do that.
That's exactly, because even on my little laptop here, all of a sudden I've got a photo stream and I'm like, well, why is it duplicating all these photographs that I've already got in? Oh my God, maybe I should meet with you for a coffee and have a private session. Why don't you email me or we'll be in touch after this because I'm getting a headache now.
Do you have my email address?
I think so. And if not, I'll get it from Michelle.
Okay.
Okay. Good seeing everybody. Thanks. Good luck. At least it's keeping our brains
Good
out.
luck to you, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Okay. Somebody else had a
Ken
question?
Gassman. Ken.
Yeah, this be a futuristic question. You know, I just got the Mac Mini with the M1 in it, and then I read the other day that the M2 chip is going to come out soon, but soon was not defined. And I'm sitting here saying, did I spend my money fast? What do you know of the M2 chip?
Well, it's newer and has a bigger number. there's
Any
always
timeline?
Generally, I'm assuming that just like with the iPhones, every year we'll have a new chip. You know, basically they're constantly going to be doing, you know, making improvements. And if you don't want to buy a chip that's going to be replaced, you're going to never buy a machine because you know it's always going to happen. But the reality is you know, I have an iPhone 11. Works fine. I'm not going to go out and buy a 12. I'm probably not going to buy a 13 unless there's some other thing that it offers, because the chip itself is not the issue. I was running an iPhone 5 for years. You know, so it all depends on, as long as it's working for you and doing fine for you, you don't have to have the newest chip all the time. That's
Well, I don't know. I do, but okay.
then you're going to be buying a new machine each year.
And I haven't seen any specs or anything, and I don't think Apple's likely to announce those quite yet. I think I know you're probably wondering, should I send this one back, during my 90-day warranty kind of time and wait and get another one. I don't know what to say. I agree with you. It's always great to have the latest and greatest, and it's, I would, if I can't say how they're going to improve it. I guarantee you it'll be in the bowels of the machine. And until the software catches up with the functionality that might be added, I don't think you're going to see much that would impact your workflow, but that's just my opinion.
Now this coming strictly from me. I have no intimate knowledge of anything Apple, but the M1 is a system on a chip. The potential in my head is that they could possibly make it have the ability to remove that system on a chip and put in a newer system on a chip on an existing machine. So the path for upgrade on these models seems more likely than in previous generations, because previous generations it was, well, yes, we could upgrade the processor, but the whole memory architecture is different. And this is all that's all on that system on a chip.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it is potentially more favorable to having upgrade options in the future because of that. That's strictly from me. I've not read or heard anything. That's just a thought that popped into my head.
Mac Rumors was talking about and using the name M2 because of any type of rumors that something may be announced during WWDC, which comes out in June. The only thing that I had heard from actual programmers is that Apple could do, when they get up to the Pro version, the Tower, is doing what is called multi-threading and not multi-processing. So multi-processing is you've got all these processors on one chip. Multi-threading is you have multiple chips. So you could have a Tower with 2, 4, 6, 8 M1 chips in it that are all linked together and all talking to each other, which would be the equivalent of, a 64-bit processor, what would be equivalent to something that Intel would make. But it's all rumor. It's all just because of the idea that WWDC is coming up. The only thing that's been substantial is that what you were saying is the MacBook Pro, the 16-inch, those are almost automatic to come out before the new year. No one is talking seriously that I've heard about an M2, that they're going to stick with the M1 until at least everything is converted over. And then you may start seeing an M1X or an M2 years in the future.
And George's philosophy of why that there's a possibility for upgrading a chip or a system on a chip, I think is good and solid logic. However, Apple has not had a socketed chip landing. In other words, you have to have a special appliance on the motherboard that accepts the insertion and removal of that system on a chip. They haven't had one of those in many, many years that I know of. So I think that would be a reach, but it would be an interesting possibility. And George has made some good points. Do you feel better, Ken?
Yes.
I have not seen the design of the iMac or the Mini well enough to see if that chip is socketed or not.
Now, the one thing I thought was really cool on the new iMacs that no one just kind of got glazed over is that the new iMacs have got Type A USB ports, which are not part of the M1 chip. So in the guts, they have found a way to bridge a small USB cluster and have it talk to the M1 chip and have that all be seamless. that so they're thinking beyond just the chip itself. They're thinking that they could add more and more pieces and have that run seamlessly.
Right. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Let's go.
George,
Yes.
George, I just want to say, for those of you who don't see the exchanges that go on between the steering committee, the geeks on this group in this group are looking at this. Hey, Terry, they're looking at these new developments as glorious. Now, when was the last time you heard men calling anything glorious? That's how they feel about this technology.
Well, what do you find glorious, Marguerite? What, you muted.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So what do you find glorious?
Oh, probably fashion or food or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what men say to that?
Actually, you're getting me into that geek world also.
I can't afford fashion or food after I've spent all my money on computers.
Well, that's why our tech is fashionable. Look, it's color coordinated.
Yeah,
I mean, you
that's
know,
right.
it has better color coordination than I do. All right. So Zenobia had.
No,
Yes.
you're the same as the iPhone Pro.
I looked at the color coordination, but I'm not sure I can really look at a band of red all day long on the bottom. I look at silver.
On the bottom of what? You're muted again.
I muted myself so I wouldn't disturb. I looked at the colored monitors, and they have this bottom band in the color of the new computer. And of course, my favorite is red, but I'm not sure I want to look at red on the bottom of my computer all day long.
There's actually a company that makes a thing that you can put over that and make it white.
Why would I pick a red then if I can't stand to look at it all day anyway?
Well, the back's still red. But, I thought the front was all white.
It's a lighter. All of them have like a pastel version of the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right, so
on the back is pink on the front.
yes, there you
I'm
go.
a space chin.
Chin.
All right, so Zenobia had some questions for us that she had posted, sent an email, and since she will be watching this later, and I thought these are actually useful for everybody. Her first question was, I keep on paying for a package deal with AT&T Uverse landline, internet, and TV. I feel I'm backward in the field of internet use and entertainment. I do not watch live TV ever. I record or I stream. The question is it practical to drop cable for the TV and still use smart TV to watch things I would like? How do you choose what to do? YouTube, Hulu, and all those choices. This has always been an ongoing question because streaming is different. The model that we're used to seeing is you bring up a guide and you see what's playing and you choose the best of what's playing. With streaming, you have options. And the problem is you have so many options that it can be overwhelming. Just in free content alone, there's so much out there. YouTube, you can go on to a lot of the network sites and watch certain shows for a certain period of time streamed. Generally, you have like once a show's been released, you've got a few weeks before it becomes part of their premium. But there's just a slew. There's also a thing called Pluto TV that actually gives you what looks like a AT&T or Spectrum or Comporium guide of what's playing. You can watch live stuff that way. It's actually not live, it's just streamed but it's basically you watch it as it plays. You don't get to choose. Typical streaming, you get a library of things to choose from, and you pick what you want to watch, whether it be a network TV show that's currently running or something that ran 20 years ago that they have in their library. With the addition of a little bit of monthly fees, you can add things like Hulu or Netflix or Apple TV or Disney Plus, and that opens the library up to a much larger selection. The Apple TV app, and there are other apps that will do similar things, will give you the ability to see what's available. Then when it shows something and you pick it, it will show you where you can watch it and whether it's going to cost, whether you can, it's something that's on a streaming service, whether you can rent it or buy it, or if it's something that's even free that you can watch. If it's connected to an app that you already have, it will take you right to that app. They have made the process a lot easier with things like the Apple TV app because you have a centralized search. You don't have to go and see, okay, is it on Hulu? No. Is it on Netflix? No. Is it on here? No. Is it on there? No. You basically find what you want to watch, and then it lists where it's available, and you see whether or not it's something that you either can watch already or need to pay for to get. But if you're doing your recording and streaming already, it really makes sense to not pay for the live cable because you're not using it. But the first thing you want to do is check to see what shows you want to watch, how those shows are available if you don't have the live TV. Because if she's recording a lot of her stuff, then you're going to have to find those things in the streamed world. For example, if you like watching Blue Bloods, well, Blue Bloods is on CBS, which is a Paramount Plus, and if you don't watch it through the live or don't have a subscription, you're going to have to basically pay a monthly fee to get Paramount's streaming service. CBS is probably the worst of all of them because they basically try to charge very quickly for everything. They know they have some of the top shows, and so they make people pay for that. So what you want to look at though is how much you're paying for your internet cable, for the TV part, and then make a list of those networks or shows that you must, that are on your must-watch list, must-have list, and see what's involved. Whether or not, if you watch mostly CBS stuff, then you can buy a CBS subscription. I think it's $9.99 a month, and you're set with most of your stuff. So what you want to do is just take the time to kind of make a list of those things that are deal breakers, those things that if you don't have, you're not going to switch. For me, the only thing that I can't watch that I really miss is a show called Doctor Who. Everything else I watch. I am paying for Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, and Paramount. And I'm paying considerably less than I was paying for my video cable. My video cable bill was close to $200. I'm paying for the combined these, I think I'm paying $50, $60 a month. So, it's a much better deal. If you like ESPN, Disney Plus has a bundle, includes ESPN, National Geographic, Hulu, and Disney Plus for $13 a month. Not a bad deal. So that really becomes very, very quickly the better way of doing it because you really get to pick and choose what you want. It's the whole a la carte idea of here's a smorgasbord of things I can watch. I'm going to pick just those that I want. Because I don't watch sports, so me having a typical video subscription with Spectrum, I'm paying for all the sports channels and such, and I'm not using those.
Many of these streamers, Georgia, we should mention, have a free trial. Some are a week, some of them are a month.
Yeah.
And in terms of making a decision about which ones to go to, That's a good way to begin. But that's good advice. It's a behavioral change in how you use a television. You know, in the past, people have run their lives and they're scheduled their days around the activities that are being broadcast, you know, on the cable. And now it's a matter of you get to choose what you want to consume, when you want to watch it. And the best way to choose which one is best for you is to look at their free trial, and decide.
And more importantly about this is the thing that you get to watch what you want to watch when you want to watch it, even if you didn't know you wanted to watch it before.
Right.
Because right now, yes, you can DVR pretty much anything, but you have to know you want to DVR it. You have to plan it. You have to set up the recording to do that so that it's there waiting for you when to watch. Right now, I can watch pretty much anything I want to watch, and I don't care when it was on. I don't even, it doesn't matter. I just watch it when I want. Don't have to plan, don't have to know ahead of time that that's what I want to watch. So it really opens the door for a lot more flexibility. I spend less time watching something just because it's on when I'm sitting in front of when I'm sitting there when I want to watch something. I remember when I used to work, I'm a night owl. I'd be up till 2 a.m. And basically from about 11 o'clock on, you had garbage on TV. You had infomercials, you had, old movies, and you were stuck watching whatever we watched. You basically find the least objectionable thing to watch. I haven't had that dilemma in years because I can watch, Law and Order at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can watch, pretty much any show I want to watch, anytime I want to watch it. I can watch, Blue Bloods at 2 p.m.
Say, George,
if
if anybody here has concerns about how to switch over, there is a service that is the simplest thing that I've found, and it's called YouTube TV. Now, it's not the cheapest, but it is the simplest. All you need is a streaming device like the Roku, and YouTube TV provides you all 3 national networks, CBS, all those things, and a plethora of other channels, even premium channels that you can sign up to for additional fees and all that. And it costs somewhere in the neighborhood of like $60 a month, and I get more channels than I can ever hope for. And I've got all 3 networks, and it's very, very, very simple. In fact, it's like I said, it's not the cheapest, but it is the simplest. And if you get that and you subscribe to the premium YouTube, that just for an extra $10 a month for the premium YouTube channel, you've got more than you can shake a stick at. It's really, for me, it's been the one-stop shop, everything for my TV type desires.
Really, the biggest problem with streaming and cutting the cord is just that you have so many good options. Before, it's like your options were the basic networks, and you basically you had that, and then you go with cable. It's like, okay, here's all your options, and you had 500 channels, and how many people watched more than 10 channels? That's generally what they did. They have certain channels they watch, about 10 of them. That's it. So, that's, and we've now taken it to an extreme here. We have even more options because it's not just channels; it's shows anytime, anywhere. So yeah, simple is nice, but the thing with that YouTube, is that streamed or is that showing them live?
On YouTube TV, the 3 national networks are live, real time, and I don't know how they do it, but I can watch whatever I want to on the 3 national networks. And I've got hooked up to Prime, and I've got Netflix on there. It's just
Right. The question I'm having on the YouTube TV is that you have to watch the show when the show airs, correct?
no, not really. What I do is that I tell the Roku box to, well, it's not through Roku. I think it's through the YouTube TV. I put it on my record list, and it'll record as many. I have not been able to run out of recording space. I can record anything on the 3, anything I want to, as long as I tell it I want to record it, and it'll automatically record it.
So that's what I'm getting at. It is basically just live. So there you get back to that. Okay, if I want to watch something other than when it airs, I have to set to record. So you're right, it's convenient, but that's basically the same model that cable's offering. The cut the cord offers, I don't have to do that. I don't have to tell it to record anything. It's already stored on somebody's server. I get to watch the show when I want to watch it. Once it has aired, it is stored, and I can watch it anytime I want. So it's a little different. The YouTube TV is just bringing that same model of the cable companies offered without having the cable company.
There's also another option here, George. You all know that I cut my cable almost 4 years ago. There's such a thing as an internal antenna that will pull in certain stations, PBS being one of those, and that's an important one for me. And lately I'm finding that I'm pulling in a lot of local live television coming in from Spartanburg. And it's perfectly clear. CBS, NBC, and ABC are coming in on an internal antenna. That's a one-time purchase, and an ugly cable running in your living room. The other thing I want to say is I have the bundle with Apple of the Apple TV and whatever else is in the bundle. I'm not happy with Apple TV because most of the shows that they offer, you have to pay for. They have very limited free programs if you subscribe to that. And finding out what's playing where, you can Google that. You don't need Apple TV to tell you that.
You need to back up a second. If you subscribe to Apple TV Plus, everything that Apple offers is free.
It's not.
Yes, it is. I have Apple TV Plus. It is. What I think you're running into is if you go into the Apple TV app, it shows things that are from everywhere, not just Apple TV Plus. So if you look at something that's not on Apple TV Plus, there could be a charge to those things because they're available elsewhere.
I have Googled it to see what Apple TV Plus offers free. It's a very limited list.
Okay. Apple TV Plus doesn't offer anything free. Apple TV, the app, is strictly giving you hooks into what's available. They're not offering any free stuff. If you do Apple TV Plus, you pay a subscription. Everything that Apple makes in the video is available at no extra charge. Trust me, I watch For Mankind, I watch Early Show, I watch Mythic Quest, I watch all those things. But I pay that $4.99 a month.
I do too.
Right. But George, there's nothing else that Apple offers that you have to pay extra for.
George, on the chat, I put the links to 2 apps that I use. One is called Just Watch, which tells you put in any TV or movie and it will tell you where you can purchase it or stream it. And the other one is TV Time. So once you found a show that you like, it will keep up and notify you when new episodes are out and how to get them. But there is a lot of out there that is free if you're willing to deal with commercials. So IMDb and YouTube both have TV shows and movies completely free, whole seasons, without, as long as you're willing to put up with the commercials, as well as a lot of off third parties. But the Just Watch is both an app as well as a website, and it's wonderful. You can type in anything. It'll show you where all the seasons are, how much they cost if they do, where to stream them. and it's I use that religiously.
Marguerite, give me an example of something that you'd found on Apple TV Plus that they charge for.
Well, I'd have to go to the TV and turn the thing on, and I'm on the computer and not the TV right now. But if I look at their films, it's $3.99, $4.99.
You have to get, but see, those aren't Apple's. You have to keep in mind, Apple has a full rental of movies and such that are available.
But at
Apple creates content. The shows that
Right.
some of the shows I mentioned, Jacob's Defense, all those are part of Apple TV Plus. That's what's included. Okay. They're not, the other movies, those aren't their movies. Those are somebody else's movie that they are renting or selling to you through the store. Just like if you went to I'm trying to think what's the Red Box, or you're renting that movie. That's different. That's not part of the subscription, and they've never advertised it as such. Those are not things that Apple created. Apple TV Plus is all Apple created content. Those shows, some shows I mentioned, The Morning Show, Ted Lasso, For All Mankind, all those are things that Apple created, and those are included in that Apple TV Plus subscription. But if you're looking at the movies and such, that's outside of Apple's production.
And next time you're here, you can turn that on for me and show me how that works, because I can't get it to work.
This is
Okay.
the beauty of what Terry just recommended. The good news about cutting the cord is that it can save you money. The bad news about cutting the cord, it can create anxiety in your life. There's so many options, and you got to understand how the industry works, who owns the content versus who is platforming the content. And, I think the idea of putting in something, and you got to know what you're looking for to begin with, to utilize the Terry search apps. But that's the way people are used to using and consuming television. I like George. I like to get on and just try a lot of new stuff. I don't pay for any. I don't use Apple TV Plus. I go to the free YouTube. I can handle the commercials. All I got to do is turn mute on, and I'm good to go. And frankly, I don't watch that much anyway. So I just think it's a matter. We have these choices now, and it's a matter of taking the time to educate yourself about what's available, and then deciding how much pain and suffering you want to deal with.
Yeah. The Apple TV stuff, I actually didn't do the subscription initially, but I got the free year, got hooked on a couple of the shows that they had. That's how they do it. All right. So basically with the cutting the cord, there's just so many options, it can get overwhelming. Whereas with the cable companies, you've got a lot of options, but they kind of they give them to you. They're just there. But you're going from basically 500 channels that you can see what's on right now versus 500 channels that you can see anything that's ever aired on that channel. So you basically are exponentially larger library to pick from. Instead of 500, you have 500 million. Because there's just so many different options of things to watch. I mean, I remember I rewatched the entire series of MASH. All was 11 years.
I've got to go. Thank you for everyone.
Okay. I'll address as anybody's questions in an email, and I'll carbon copy everybody in the steering committee. But yeah, Margaret, if you want me to swing by sometime, maybe next week, let me know. I can, because I think there's just confusion as to what the app versus the subscription. You're muted.
I said I have so many choices that it's not urgent. I just feel if they're not making it any easier for me to use it, then I really don't like it. So I'm busy with other stuff. Thank you very much for the offer.
No problem. All right. Well, unless somebody's got any other questions, I will end the meeting here, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, George.
Thanks, everybody.
It's good.